about a story or a run-on sentences. And so it's a common thing. Sometimes I even do it still. And you go, oh, okay. There is a small besides run-on sentences. But this seems a little elementary, but I have a couple of things that I want to tie into it, like the use of semicolons and kind of why we use them. And how many of you, by show of hands, really kind of avoid using a semicolon because you really don't know how to use it? I mean, you'll use it sometimes, but
I'll just throw it in there for fun.
yeah, you just throw it in there like, I hope that works out. You don't know why.
But it sounds
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some rules of thumb. So it always works. Some rules of thumb of how you can use semicolons and why they're used. While we're doing this, and a couple of little tiny lessons so that this isn't quite as elementary as it seems, but some people do need to brush that. So let's start with the idea of a complete sentence has a subject and a verb, right? And uses some sort of action. The problem is what happens is somebody will write a subject, verb, some sort of action, and something that's not quite the same, and it'll be two different sentences. And so when an idea is complete, they call that a main clause. So if you look at this first sentence here, I give it an example. It says, Merdine is a skilled carpenter. Okay? She single-handedly built a 2-story log cabin. So Merdine is a skilled carpenter is a complete sentence. I can put a period after that, right?
Yeah.
And so that it's kind of like the detective game. Where can I put the period? Right? Well, we don't want to write 700 little choppy sentences, and I understand that. But she single-handedly built a 2-story cabin changes the meaning of the sentence. Okay? But it can be a sentence itself. She single-handedly built a 2-story log cabin. I can point at somebody and say, she single-handedly built a 2-story cabin. And that's a complete sentence. So that's two main clauses. And so you have to, so it's a run-on sentence if you don't have a period in between. Okay? So a period and capitalize the she. And then the second way you can correct it is with a semicolon. Well, a lot of people don't understand what semicolons are, so they don't do it. So we're going to have a little mini semicolon lesson. Semicolon actually means, well, ours used in kind of like 3 different ways. The first way you can think of a semicolon. Well, first let's go with the colon because you know that one. The colon means as follows. Okay? So students need the following materials: a pen, paper, and their notebook. Okay? Or their book. So they need the following material as follows: pen, paper, book, right? And you put things in a series. When you put things in a series, a lot of times we use what? To commas. Okay. Well, a comma can designate a series, but when I do it in a comma, basically I'm just saying that I have these things. They don't have to be in any specific order of importance. So I could say, I was using, in my last class I used, when I went skiing, I needed nobody wants the skis anymore. They want the board, right? I need boots. Well, let's come up with things. If you don't have your board, you're obviously not going to ski, right? So and I'm trying to figure out order of importance. So, board, goggles, and bindings. Sure. You won't be able to see without the binding, huh? Jacket, okay. Now if I did it this way, when I go skiing, I needed a board, goggles, and jacket. If I forgot my goggles, well, I might be able to. Then I can get glasses or whatever. It's not a specific order of importance. If I forgot my jacket, it might be cool, but I can still ski, right? And so we do this when it doesn't really matter the order of importance. We use the semicolon to mean equal in importance when you're using it in a list. So when I use a semicolon to designate a list, that means this item is as important as this item and is as important as this item. For example, when we were evaluating the motorcycle, I could say the things that I value in a motorcycle is, the things I value in a motorcycle are safety, performance, and what else did we say? Style. Okay. Now, if I say it this way, I am telling the reader something, and there's a little nuance that you don't understand. I can put these in, because remember I said that as I go to write my paper, I could write more about safety. I can have like several paragraphs about safety, and performance might be a smaller paragraph or just one or two paragraphs. So if I wrote it this way, safety, performance, jacket, or safety, performance, style, and then I could say, well, safety is more important to me. And since safety is more important to me, as long as the bike's safe, even if the other two categories are a little bit lower, I could still maybe convince myself to buy the Honda motorcycle, right? Hello? Hello? Brandon? What? Yes, is the football game at the school? Is the football at your school? Okay. Yes. Right. Okay, now this here says that safety is the same as performance, is the same as style. So if I say that it is not a good safety match, I can't buy the Honda. Understand? Because it's equal importance to me that gets taken care of. You guys understand? So if I use the semicolon to signify order of importance, everything has to be is kind of equal. And what it's saying is repeat part of the sentence before. So the things I value in purchasing a motorcycle is safety. The thing I value in purchasing a motorcycle is performance, is style. Okay, so it's like repeating the first part of the sentence. And if I said, oh, it's not a good safety match, can't buy a motorcycle. Okay? The second way we use a semicolon is the one that's probably most useful to you. And that is, I like to think of the semicolon as it is two main clauses, therefore I could put a period, right, in the middle of the sentence. But the sentences are so closely related, the first sentence and the second, that it makes sense to also put a comma. For example, my chiffon sweater is my favorite. It goes with me everywhere I go. My chiffon sweater is my favorite. Period. Did I just say that? Yes. It goes with me everywhere I go. What goes with me? My chiffon sweater. Understand? So if the sentences are so closely related, not only in material but also kind of in grammatical style, then I could put a semicolon and it still makes sense. So, just like I say, think of it as, well, I can put a period here because they match up so well. I might as well just keep going, and so it makes that sentence flow. Okay, so those are the two ways that you can adjust your writing. Okay, and so don't overuse the semicolon. When you notice that the grammatical style just isn't quite there, like if it says, my chiffon sweater is my favorite, my chiffon sweater something else, right? Then put the period there because you don't have to go back and say, what was it? And all of that stuff. So, so just kind of a rule of thumb so that you don't just have these little tiny, boring sentences. Okay, so we're going to do these together. Yes?
I do actually have a question about the semicolon. Is it one space or two after a semicolon? And with the colon, it's 2, is that correct?
I believe it's 1, and I do, and the colon it is 2.
Okay.
But it's just like a comma, right? So the semicolon is a comma, it's a period or a comma, so I believe it's only 1. Your computer will automatically correct you with little squiggles, but I think it's only 1.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a few of these out loud together. And so I just want to, by consensus, hearing everybody what they think that they would do and want. Okay? And then I'll have you do a few of them by yourself just to make sure you're there. So we're on number 1. And I'm going to read them just like straight through so you can see how clumsy they sound when you read it and you're like, oh, that's really a clumsy sentence because it runs into each other. Okay, so the first one, a jump rope is the ultimate aerobic exercise that provides a top-notch daily workout. Okay, it sounds clumsy when you read it, right? Because it's one sentence. So what do I do to fix it?
After exercise.
Okay, after exercise, I can put a semicolon. That would work. And then also, a jump rope is the ultimate aerobic exercise. Exclamation point would work there too. And then it could be capitalized. So either one of those would work. So punctuation after exercise. If I choose to be a period, then I would capitalize it there. If I choose it to be a semicolon, then I do not capitalize it. Do you understand? Okay. On the second one, my teacher never missed a day of school. I think even the flu and the common cold were afraid of that lady. Would I use a comma did I tell anybody to use a comma? No, we don't use a comma. There's semicolon after
School.
After school. My teacher never missed a day of school. I would probably put a period there. And here's why. My teacher never missed a day of school. And then, because it's not grammatically the same. And I think even the flu and the common cold were afraid of that lady. So I would probably put a period and capitalize when I's already capitalized. Now, could you argue that the semicolon would work there? Probably. But if I just put a comma there, would it be a comma splice? My teacher never missed a day of school. I think even the flu. I think you could just put a comma there. That's not introductory material. My teacher never did miss a day of school. Yeah. So really, a semicolon does not work because you can't put a comma there. Okay. Remember, this means I can put a period, but it's so closely related I can put a comma. So if you can't put a comma, you can't put a semicolon. Okay. Experience is not what happens to you, it is what you do with what happens to you. Semicolon after you. A low blood sugar level signals hunger. A higher one tells you the brain that you do not need to eat. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't put. Let's read it again. A low blood sugar level signals hunger. A higher one tells the brain that you don't need to eat. Hey, I made those up. I read them in those sentences. It's hard to write 4 sentences when you know how to write just ones, by the way. Okay. A lobotomy is a fairly simple operation, however, amateurs should not attempt it. Semicolon after operation works. Also, you could do the period and capitalize however, but then if you capitalize however, you need a comma after however. So you have to do 2 things in order to fix that if you put a period. Because however is introductory period, okay? So if you choose to put the period there, just remind yourself that however is introductory and you have to have a comma after that.
What about just putting a comma after?
After however? Lobotomy is a fairly simple operation, however. Amateurs should not attempt it.
No, after operation.
You can put a semicolon after operation and a comma after operation.
Okay, again, okay, could I erase a lobotomy as a fairly simple operation and erase that? Because that's what you did before. Because I can erase however and say amateurs should not attempt it, right? Okay, but can I erase a lobotomy as a fairly simple operation?
No.
No, so I can't put a comma. You understand how I'm looking at it to fix it? There's some strategies about how to fix sentences, and it's kind of like there's not one strategy that works 100%. You try these things. Like for that particular one, if I just started this sentence, however, okay, if I erase however because it's set apart with a comma, it doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence. The sentence saying amateurs should not attempt it is still a complete sentence. As far as completeness, right? However makes it flow better, and that's why the person put it there. So that's our rule of thumb is how you can tell whether you take material out of a sentence. Okay, what am I on? 6. 50 years ago, parents were apt to have several children. Nowadays, children are apt to have several parents. Again, same thing. Semicolon would work, and then 50 years ago, parents were apt to have several children. Nowadays, nope, you would have to have a period and capitalize it. Because a comma would not work there. You see that? So semicolon does not work on 6. You have to have a period and capitalize nowadays. Do you see why? It would be a comma splice if I put the comma there, because nowadays children are apt to have several parents. I couldn't take that away from the sentence and have it still make sense. You see what I'm saying?
You just put a comma after nowadays?
You could. In fact, yes, because it would be in the vector material at that point. Humor is a rubber sword. It allows you to keep to make a point without drawing blood. You could do period after sword. You could also do a semicolon. I like the period after sword just because, or the exclamation point. The humor is a rubber sword. Okay? Just because that's what is the name of that device? When you say something it's a metaphor, right? Humor is a rubber sword. So it's a metaphor. A metaphor is comparing things with,
I was doing understood your question.
Oh.
No, I understand.
So yeah, but that's preference. Preference would be I would put a period after a sword, but it would be correct to put a semicolon as well. So that's just a matter of preference. So you see how you can kind of make some decisions, and that's just like I say, it's a matter of preference and how you want to emphasize things. Do I want to emphasize it as this is really closely related, or do I want to emphasize it as humor is a rubber sword? Like if I was using this as a speech, I would want an exclamation point there, right? So that my speech, so I emphasize that, right? So people are like, punctuation, so what? But it really makes a huge difference if you punctuate different ways. Like I say, to determine whether things are equal in importance. And that is really kind of what that means too, is this part of the sentence is equal in importance to this part of the sentence. That's really what the semicolon indicates. Okay? 8. Black magic is meant to harm and destroy. White magic is intended to benefit an individual or community.
Period after destroy, capitalize white.
Period after destroy, capitalize white.
You could include a semicolon also.
What magic is meant to harm and destroy? No, you couldn't put comma there. You could put black magic is meant to harm or destroy, comma, and white magic is meant to benefit. We'll see, but I would put it here.
Well, it's cool. It's just like the comma. You could comma stuff in.
Yeah, you can't put and. Yeah, because if you put and white magic is intended, you were talking about black magic. So black magic is meant to harm or destroy. Period. White magic is intended to benefit. So no semicolon there. Yeah, because it's not an and, it's either or. Carefully open the can of soup, empty the contents of the can into the saucepan, and stir gently.
Why wouldn't it be a comma?
You could. This one could be corrected in a lot of ways. I could say carefully open the can of soup, comma, empty the contents of the can, comma, of the can into a saucepan, comma, and gently, and stir gently. So it could be, just like when I went skiing here, it could be just commas to fix it. It could also be, now when I had another person on 9, so carefully open the can of soup, semicolon, is how you would fix it, because we're trying to either use period or semicolon in this exercise. Okay? But you can fix this sentence by putting a comma after soup, after saucepan, and that would also fix it, because then it's a list, right? Some people were asking me why we have to put the comma before and do we still have to do it? And my answer is, yes, you still have to do it, but this is a living language, and it has become understood that we don't have to. Think of this sentence. This is my crude drawing of a piece of toast. Bacon. Okay, I think I'm actually doing this wrong time. So, if I did not use, okay, this one, if I use, this is and, right? So, my sentence is, this morning I had toast, bacon, and eggs. Okay? If I change this by taking the comma away, this sentence now says, this morning I had toast, bacon, and eggs. As if I was talking to bacon and eggs and telling them that I had toast. Understand?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're a living language. We learn to adapt. So a lot of times we now drop that comma before the and. But the comma before the and, this is called it's called an Oxford and. It's from the Oxford English from England, right? As to why we still put that comma in there. So if you are writing proper English, you need the comma. If you're just writing because we've evolved, you don't.
No. I learned it that if you, for example, if you're using it in a list like this, if you were to forget something, that's where you would go back and put it in, is between the comma and the and. So if you had toast, bacon, orange juice, and eggs, you would put the orange juice in there. That's how I learned how to do it.
Lots of different strategies. So
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, but it, like I say, it's just a matter of now. Say I am talking to you, class. So now this is class, right? So it's the age of class. Or how about Steve and Jackie? So this morning I had toast, Steve and Jackie, or Steve and Jackie this morning, right? Mm-hmm. So you can do that. Yeah, I'm talking to you. This morning I had toast, Steve and Jackie. I had it. Yes. Okay, but sounds odd, doesn't it? So that's why it's now become commonplace that you can not put that in, because usually you wouldn't have that afterthought of telling whoever it is you're talking to, right? So that's why it's evolved to understood, but doing it completely by the book, you put the comma in. Okay? So if you guys could please complete 10 through 15 on your own, and then we'll see how you did it. Make sure, that way you don't have all the support. You can just do it on your own.
Hello? Oh, how's it going? I'm very good, Charlie. Oh, okay, you mind if I get that back to class?
On your own. Good.
Okay. Alright, thank you very much.
Number 10. It's not enough to figure out fraternity non-conformists. Let them in, make friends, and work together. What'd you do to fix it?
After not teachers mentoring.
I would just move forward. I hate the way that this one is worded. Boy bands should be exploded from a great height just because pretty people singing music written by they're just pretty people singing music written by others. That's like a tongue twister itself. You can put a period after height and then capitalize there.
Can you read it here?
You can. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you will be successful.
I put a period after successful.
I would put a period, and here's why. Happiness is okay. If you love what you're doing, you will be successful. And remember when I said like the chiffon sweater and saying chiffon sweater in the next sentence? So happiness is the key to success, period, and capitalize it there. If you love what you're doing, and that if you love what you're doing becomes introductory material, right? So I can actually still take you will be successful is still a complete sentence. And then if you love what you're doing, modifies that. Number 13. It is not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent which survives. It is the one that makes is the most adaptable to change.
I put a semicolon after survives and a period and then a period after the second survives and capitalize the head.
That does work. Yes, that does work. Okay. You can also, this one is one that you can change with a couple of commas, right? So it's not the strongest species that survives, comma, nor the most intelligent that survives, period, and then capitalize it. So there's a few ways to fix that, right? The nor the most intelligent is material that can be set off by commas, which is why you know that you could use a semicolon after before nor. Okay? Because nor the most intelligent can be taken out of that sentence, and it says it is not the strongest of the species that survives, it is the one that is the most adaptable to change. Right? So if I could take that whole section out of the sentence, then you can use the semicolon because it's a period or a comma. Courage is doing what you're afraid to do when you can know. See that? This is why it irritates me when people do this. Courage is doing what you're afraid to do. There can be no courage unless you're scared.
Why wouldn't you do a period and capitalize there?
Let's see. Courage is. Yeah, I would put a period after this. Because see, look, courage is doing what you're afraid to do. And then remember I said, kind of restating what we had in front. So like when I said, I can't live without my chiffon sweater. I bring it everywhere. What's it? The chiffon sweater. This is saying courage is what you're afraid to do. But then later on it says there can be no courage. So it doesn't say you can't do it unless you're scared. If it said you can't do it unless you're scared, then you can or you can't have it unless you're scared. You see what I'm saying? So if I change the sentence, courage is doing what you're afraid to do semicolon, you can't do it unless you're scared, then it would work. You understand? With that, having that courage over in the other sentence makes it where you shouldn't use semicolon because of the structure of the sentence. You see how that kind of works? Okay, the last one. During a boat trip in 1862, Charles Dodson began telling a story about an adventure in the world full of peculiar creatures. The place was called Wonderland.
After creatures.
Semicolon after creatures.
After a period of teaching,
And capitalize that word as flat.
So you said have a comma between survives, a colon, these,
A comma after the first survives, and a period after the second one, and capitalize the it. Or semicolon after the first survives, and still a period before it. So you would. Questions? And like I say, keep practicing it. You're going to get some of them wrong, but now you know a couple of skills that you can use and just kind of keep in mind when your teacher starts to ask if that semicolon really means equal in importance. So this side of the sentence is equal in importance to this side of the sentence. Okay? A quick transition. We're going to need your rough drafts out. Do you have a secret? I believe there was one left in here. I am mistaken. Okay. So what we're going to do is you're going to have an opportunity to help your fellow member in some editing, or well, I should say in some suggestions by people we're going to peer edit today a little bit. But we're going to do it in a different way maybe than you've done before. And so this is my expectation is we're going to do this peer editing, and then when you get your paper back, you will have the opportunity to choose whether or not to correct your paper to what your peer editor gave you as suggestions, because ultimately you're the one responsible for your paper, right? And so if they say, hey, put a semicolon, and you're looking at it and you're like, no, that's not a semicolon. It's your choice ultimately, because you're the one grading. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not grading this paper on semicolons and things like that. This paper is being graded on that organizational structure, so the projected organizational structure, and thesis statement. That's really what I'm looking at. So I'm going to show you what I want you to do with your peer's paper. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to read it completely through, even considering any marks or anything. Just read it and see if you get a general idea of what they were trying to do. Okay, so start that. Take the paper, just read it once through.
Yeah, then.
Okay, here you go. So this is how you're going to start. I have 24 highlighters here. So I think there's 15. I have enough. I have to get them back, so I count them, unfortunately. I have to use the lose all my highlighters. So what I want you to do is I want you to take their paper. Now listen. Okay? I want you to take your peer's paper, and I want you to look for a thesis statement. If they have a thesis statement, hello. No, I did not. Okay, well, I'm in class right now. Okay, so highlight. So what you do is I want you to highlight the thesis statement. If they don't have a thesis statement, don't highlight it. Indicate to them that they don't have a thesis statement. Okay? Then underline the projected organization elements and label them as follows. X is whatever their first one is. So if it's style, you just underline style and put a 100. Whatever Y is, put a 200. Whatever Z is, put a 300. If they have more, or if they only have 2, that's fine. Remember, I said sometimes people only want to share 2 things. That's fine. And some people have 4. I did have one person who had 4 elements in their projected organization. Okay. Then in each body paragraph, I want you to highlight the topic sentence, or what you think is the topic sentence, and only the topic sentence. So if there happens to be a transition sentence in there, don't highlight that also. Just highlight the topic sentence. By the way, this is an exercise, right, for you to make sure that you can find these things. And then underline the projected organization element being discussed in this sentence. So you'll have the highlighted sentence, and it should have somewhere in the sentence that element. And then check to see that each separate paragraph only discusses the element indicated in the topic sentence. And if not, circle it. In other words, if they have elements that should not be there, circle. And say somewhere on, put a little mark and say, this shouldn't be in this paragraph. Or move to paragraph 3 or whatever. Okay, and while you're doing that, I'll write up the rules for what we're going to do on the conclusions. So do that part first, and we'll move on. How many are up here? Remember, we're not fixing grammar yet. We're not fixing spelling errors.
I'll take one actually. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
No? Some boss. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Is basic necessarily diseases? No.
The wording of it? So
That's what I thought, but I
yeah,
wasn't.
so just looking for
We're not doing that.
It should be it needs to serve several purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it costs or something, yeah. So that is diseases. Yeah.
So it's like whatever, like, piece that you have on each paragraph. It's an idea, So just underline it, just say that, and
Well, I think this is it, because there's like a cut in one position that we showed that instead of all that. I think that
Okay, and then I'm gonna let you move on, but you can take as long as you need, you can go back, but let me just discuss these, those who are going a little faster can. But on the conclusion, you're treating that just like the introduction. Did the author rewrite the thesis in slightly different words? In other words, is you want to connect that conclusion back up to the thesis statement. If not, if they did highlight it, if not, in the margin indicate how they might be able to do that. Did the author provide an overview of his or her projected organization elements? If so, underline and label like we did in the first one. So in other words, is if they have 3 up here, they should have 3 in the conclusion. I have noticed people do like 1 or 2, or they'll have 3 or 4, and then you get to their conclusion and they only mention 2 ideas. And you should have the same amount of ideas in the introduction as you do in the conclusion. Okay? And finally, does the author offer a final summation or call to action? If not, can you suggest one? Sometimes, guys, hold on. Sometimes this third one, their overall opinion and evaluation, might be their call to action. Like, if they said something to, therefore, I would not suggest getting the Honda blah, blah, blah motorcycle. That is that. That is a final summation. So that you don't have to come up with something different. You see what I'm saying? So 3 and 4 can be combined, but if not, maybe the call to action might be, hey, go out and get yourself a, Toshiba today, or what have you. After you've completed this, the next order of business then is to go back through and go ahead and edit for things that you're seeing, grammar, other things, you can make those indications. But I want the focus to be on, did they organize correctly, did they do the projected organization, and do they have a thesis statement?
So does a thesis need to be word for word? As it was on
It should not be word for word, so maybe suggest a way to change it up. So in other words, so instead of saying, it's important to me to be, or I might say,
what you're saying is that you don't want to make it redundant.
yeah, you don't want it to be redundant and just kind of choppy and boring. So, for that, I might say, I value remaining safe, having a reliable vehicle, and showing off to my friends. So we're doing showing off a little stop. It's the same thing. Right?
This one is the style that it has. Describe the different snaps that it comes with.
Today they finally gave me a login, so because I have trimmer, I hate writing on the board, so I'll start having it up here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, because my handwriting is so poor because I mean I can't keep, sometimes my head will just start going, especially if I get tired. And then I look at things and go, wow, that's really bad. So I try to type it out. I used to love those overheads.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could type the overhead up beforehand.
Ancient technology.
I know. I've been teaching for a long time. 90. Reading a lot of different styles.
Like a lot of places. Yeah, well, the program that I'm in, work on people that you surgery and then
I know what certain words mean. There's two guys just
rotations like the
Okay, so I don't know, why is it back to
So they don't do like
this whole code thing. You'll have to Alright, great guys. Alright, these questions are good for everybody. So, as I had mentioned when they hired me 3 days before your term started here at Pikes Peak. I work at 2 other colleges, they hired me 3 days before. So they're finally getting all of my stuff. I have the key now to the door, and as of 2 o'clock, I can now log on to the computers. And that same code that I have to log on to the computers, you have to turn in to get your copies made, because copies they kind of track how much a copy. So I turn in for my copy, because I can't afford it, unfortunately. But I don't work for them, I work for other reasons. Anyway, if I have the schedule, and I turned it into this morning, and so they're supposed to, the calendar, okay, and that'll tell you your major assignments. But I had a couple people ask me about, they do want us to turn things into that D2L. That's the core shell online, and that's also where you can email me, and there's a lot of tracking there, and that's also where I'm going to start uploading things. Now, the question is once you get that schedule, you'll know the major due dates for things, like when each paper is due, and so on and so forth. But all reading assignments are out of this book, unless I specifically bring or upload something supplementary. It's all out of this. All of the grammar assignments are out of this, okay? Unless I do something supplementary like I did today in class. Okay, so I will be finding and assigning certain sections of this book starting next time. It's just a matter of they had to give me all of my stuff. So next time I hope to be able to turn this on and give everybody an introduction on how to. It's intuitive if you go through and play with it. You'll figure out how to do it. But I'm going to try to show you where to go, so that you can just click on the button, click the browse button like you do to text an email, and upload the D2L. And I will do the same as far as if you are absent from this class, if there were supplementary materials, if I put that on the doc sharing post for you guys, or the course materials post, then say you missed today, then you could look on that shell and say, oh, well, here's some materials that they did, and you would be able to download that. Obviously, if I gave it to you, you probably should do it, right? And, but you'll have the due dates as far as everything is concerned. So the only thing that you have to do, return this paper to its rightful owner. When you go to turn in your final copy, you also turn in your rough draft stapled to the back. Okay? So that I see that you did a rough draft and a final copy, that you had everything you're supposed to have. And then I can see what other people said, you know, what advice they gave, and so on and so forth. So don't lose your rough draft. You're going to turn it in hard copy because you haven't been given the how to use the D2L yet. So
what's the put on D2L as well?
if you can, I would love it.
Okay.
Try.
What I tried to do last night, but you didn't have any boxes.
Yeah, I don't have it. Yeah, that one's open yet. But okay, so here's how it works, guys. We still have 15 minutes. I have something else. So you're going to when you do your final copy, make sure it's double spaced. I see a couple people still having single space. Make sure you have some sort of heading or a cover page on your paper. And
What do you mean by a cover page? So you want a heading that's right here on the page?
yeah, if you do a cover page, then you don't put the heading on the paper.
Okay, so you always want.
I was taught to cover and title. So you like
Yeah, no, just either or. I really don't care at this point, either or. Okay. If you're doing APA, it's a cover page and then you have a running head. The header goes on every other page. So that's like your last name.
Yeah, I think my last name.
Okay. Reading assignment for this for you to bring with you on Tuesday. Out of the 50 essays book. Does anybody have the second edition? This is the third. Okay. I'll try to give you the numbers. You know what? I almost thought I was going to do a favor.
This one, I'm worried about that.
Yeah. Somehow the second edition is on there. Okay, you have a 2 essays that I need you guys to read. It ends up being about 20 pages of reading. The first one is Serving in Florida. In the third edition, which is the edition you should have, it starts on page 136. In the second edition, it starts on page 151. Serving in Florida. 136. I don't know what it is. And the second one that I need you to read is called Turkeys in the Kitchen. Turkeys in the Kitchen. It starts on page 72. If you have the second edition, it might be called Lost in the Kitchen instead of Turkeys in the Kitchen. Same article. It starts on page 82.
What was the page for the first edition?
72. Okay? So those two pieces, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do with those two pieces. Okay? Well, we actually have 4 pieces before we start. We are going to write a compare and contrast essay. The compare and contrast is going to be very literary elements and a couple of things about the story. So themes and things like that. So we're going to use the literature in order to bolster what we're saying. So it's not quite as simple as, I'm going to compare orange to yellow. Both of them are brown. Okay? I don't like orange. I like yellow. Fruits are named oranges, but there's no yellow. Okay, we are going to do a compare and contrast essay based off of those readings. So please read them beforehand. All you're doing is reading. You're not writing an essay. All you're doing is reading. And you're fixing the essay you've already completed. What am I grading on?
The thesis and 5 paragraph or
Yeah, the thesis and the organization, the predicted organization model. So I'm looking for thesis, predicted organization, that you follow your predicted organization throughout the paper, and then a logical conclusion. That's all I'm grading, unless you happen to have some like blatant errors, like you have like blah 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 yakety. I had one person, honestly, I think they didn't think I read all the essays, and he actually wrote. It was a boy. He actually wrote, like, he'd start sentences and then he'd say blah 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 yakety. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the funny thing is I had given out a example model, but wanted it to fit on one page. And so he was teasing me. He goes, "But you put that in your model, blah blah blah, Matt." Yeah, I was like, "Oh, you're talking. Go fix this, or I'll kill you." Okay. I need 20 more of these. So if you borrowed one, please give back, and then you're good to go.
So the essay is due Tuesday.
Essay is due Tuesday, and it's final. Hard copy. Sir?
Welcome.
See you later, Brent.
I actually have a couple questions
Okay.
about this. I don't know if you kind of just want to take a look at it. Because I have the projected organization, and this is no. I don't know if it's really needs a lot. Definitely needs a lot of work.
Okay. Okay, so I will cover the galaxy 3 features. Okay.
She was saying that Period was telling me, well, this is kind of my thesis. And I was saying, well, I thought the thesis was your put or position. I thought this was projected organization.
Project organization is already
Yeah, so this would be that projected.
So, can you evaluate this? So we get the top selling. So what do you, are you arguing that it's the top selling? Is that what you're trying to do?
Oh, no, actually,
Or is it working all the time?
no, I wasn't arguing. I was just stating the fact to kind of give the reader an idea that it is top tier. But because not everybody would know that. I was giving them the example that it actually competes with something like that. That's not really
No, I understand.
where I was going with the whole.
Yeah, I understand.
So, I don't know, I might think about just taking that part out.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so example galaxy 3 is the highest tier building.
Well,
Kind of have the grammar. The galaxy 3 is the top selling from 7 and from 4S by a large margin.
So, grammatically, is incorrect.
In order to determine the value of
It's a
the I, use the following evaluation criteria.
Thank you.
Okay, this needs to go away because that is